somewhere between 15,000 and 40,000 years ago, in a place we cannot pinpoint. Something happened that should not have happened. A wild apex predator, an animal that hunted in coordinated packs and would not hesitate to kill a human child, walked toward a human camp and chose, somehow, to stay. Every dog alive today is descended from that decision. We still do not fully understand why it was made. Let us start with what is settled science. Every modern domestic dog, from a Chihuahua to a Tibetan Mastiff, is the same species. Canis lupus familiaris. They are a subspecies of the gray wolf, Canis lupus. Dogs are not descended from jackals, foxes, or coyotes. They are wolves, but they are not descended from any wolf alive today. Ancient DNA studies, particularly the landmark 2022 paper led by Anders Bergstrom at the Francis Crick Institute, looked at 72 ancient wolf genomes spanning the last 100,000 years. The findings were clear. Modern dogs share their ancestry with a now extinct population of late Pleistocene wolves. The wolves that became dogs were not the ones that survived. The win is contested. The oldest undisputed dog skeleton, distinct enough from a wolf to be classified separately, is the Bonn-Oberkassel dog found in Germany. It dates to about 14,200 years ago. The skeleton was buried with 2 adult humans, deliberately, with care. That dog had been sick with canine distemper for weeks before dying, and somebody nursed it through the illness. 14,200 years ago, somebody loved a dog enough to bury it next to them. Older candidate fossils exist. The Goyet Cave skull in Belgium, dated to about 36,000 years ago, has a shortened snout and crowded teeth, features that look more dog than wolf. Some researchers call it the earliest dog. Others say it is just a regional wolf variant. The debate has not been settled. What is clear from genetics is that dogs as a distinct lineage existed by at least 20,000 years ago. The exact start date is fuzzy. The where is the mystery that has consumed canine geneticists for decades. Different papers have placed the origin in East Asia, Central Asia, the Middle East, Europe, and Siberia. In 2016, a major paper in Science argued that dogs were actually domesticated twice, once in Europe, once in East Asia, and that the 2 lineages later merged. In 2022, Bergstrom's paper suggested that the actual origin was somewhere east of the Urals, in Siberia or Mongolia, with later mixing from a southwestern population in the Middle East. What is striking is that no archaeological site so far has produced the oldest possible dog at the genetically expected location. The genetic homeland and the archaeological homeland do not yet match. Either the right site has not been excavated or the dogs moved with humans so quickly after domestication that the trail blurred. We are still looking. The how is the most interesting part. Forget the cartoon image of a caveman raising a wolf cub by hand. The leading scientific theory today is that wolves domesticated themselves. It is called the commensal pathway, and it works like this. Hunter-gatherer humans generated waste, bones, scraps, awful, half-eaten carcasses around their camps. For a scavenging wolf, that was a steady food source if you could tolerate being close to humans. Most wolves could not. They were too wary, too easily startled, too aggressive. They ran away or attacked. But a small minority of wolves had a genetic quirk. They were less fearful, calmer around novelty, slower to fight or flee. Those wolves got the scraps. They survived better. They had more pups, and those pups inherited the calmness. Over hundreds of generations, the wolves who could tolerate human proximity gradually became something different. Smaller in body, softer in features, more variable in coat color, easier to socialize. We did not domesticate them so much as we created the ecological conditions in which a calmer wolf out-competed a wild one. We know this is plausible because of a famous Soviet experiment. In 1959, a Russian geneticist named Dmitry Belyaev started breeding silver foxes for a single trait: tolerance of humans. Out of each generation, he selected only the calmest, most approachable foxes and bred them together. Within just 6 generations, the foxes were dramatically different. They wagged their tails, they licked human hands, they sought out human contact, but more than just behavior changed. The foxes started showing piebald coat patterns, curled tails, floppy ears, shorter snouts, and they bred more often per year. None of those traits were directly selected. They came along as side effects of selecting for tameness. It is called the domestication syndrome, and it shows up in dogs, cats, cattle, pigs, horses, and even self-domesticated animals like humans ourselves. Modern dogs carry genetic markers of this process. The clearest is a region called WBSCR17 on chromosome 6 in humans. Mutations in the equivalent region cause Williams-Burns syndrome, a condition characterized by extreme social friendliness, an almost compulsive desire to interact with strangers. Dogs have similar variants. Wolves do not. In other words, the genes that make a dog want to greet you at the door are, in part, the same family of genes that make some humans extremely sociable. The dog brain is also smaller than the wolf brain, even adjusted for body size, about 20 to 30% smaller. That is consistent with the domestication syndrome. Domesticated animals lose some cognitive demands of wildlife. But dogs gain something wolves do not have. They became literate in a sense in human social cues. They can follow a human's gaze. They can interpret a pointing finger. No wolf in any laboratory has ever reliably done either of those things, no matter how it was raised. So here is what we do not know. We do not know exactly where the first dog stepped out of the woods. We do not know what year, what decade, or what century. We do not know whether it happened once and spread or whether it happened in multiple places independently and the lineages later mixed. What we do know is that whoever those first dogs were, they walked into our camps and never left. And we walked with them across every continent on Earth, into every climate humans could survive, and eventually into the bedroom. There is one final detail that I love. The Bonover Castle dog, the one buried with 2 humans 14,000 years ago, was a puppy about 7 months old when it died. It had been suffering from distemper for weeks. By every measure of survival, that dog should have been abandoned. It was not. Somebody kept it warm, kept it fed, kept it close, and when it finally died, they buried it as if it were family. Because by then, it was every time your dog rests their head on your knee, they are doing something their wild ancestors would never have done. They are also doing something humans have been on the receiving end of for at least 14,000 years. We are, in a very real sense, the same team. 2 species, 1 fire, 1 couch, 1 long shared road. We may never know exactly how it started, but we know exactly how it has continued.